Hey you guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to TacticalBassin. Today, we're talking about one of the most overlooked hard baits in bass fishing and how you can use it to catch more fish. The spybait is one of the easiest lures in bass fishing for anyone, beginner or expert, to fish with. Not only is it easy to fish, it catches giant bass. But almost no one talks about it. Almost no one throws it. It blows my mind year after year. Now, within bass fishing, there are all sorts of little niche baits that almost nobody talks about or almost no one uses, but this is not that. This is a mainstream fish catching bait that works all over the country, and yet almost everyone overlooks it. Now, for years, I have taken advantage of that. See, I am a spybait fanatic. I love fishing these things. I use them up north, targeting giant smallmouth. I use them for spotted bass. I use them for largemouth in the deep south where I know nobody else is throwing one. I go out on the Tennessee River, and when these fish shut down and everybody else is pulling big flutter spoons and deep cranking magnum cranks and throwing swim baits, and don't get me wrong, I do all of that also. But when the going gets tough and everybody's complaining and they head home, out comes that 6 to 8 pound fluoro and a spybait, and we get to work. See, it's not just a Clearwater thing. It's not just a Great Lakes smallmouth thing, but it's been pigeonholed in those categories. The spybait is an incredible family of baits. Look at the big picture. There are at least 15 companies that make a spybait, but when's the last time you saw somebody throwing one? Isn't that interesting? So let's jump into this. What is a spybait? Let me give you the super brief. If you don't want to watch the whole video, but you're curious enough to try a spybait, what should you try? Let me start there. In this category, Duo Realis makes a bait called the spinbait. Duo Realis owns the spybait category. Now, there are a lot of other brands building spybaits, but Duo Realis is at the core of all of that. If you were only going to buy one spybait to see what it's about, it would be a Duo Realis Spinbait 80. And in the video description, the very first thing I will do is link that Spinbait 80 straight to Tackle Warehouse, and I'll give you 1 or 2 key colors. In fact, what I'll do is I'll give you one really ghosty color. That's if you're on a Clearwater lake. And I'll give you one right there that's got a little shine to it, that's more of a solid color. That's if you're on a murkier water lake. And we'll leave it right there. For the guy that wants to bail out of the video, you're set. Grab some 8 pound fluoro on a spinning rod, go out and sling that thing around. Throw it out, sink to your desired depth. If the fish are on bottom, let it go almost to bottom. If the fish are suspended, fish it just below the surface or anywhere in between. Throw it out, let it sink to depth. On its way down, it's going to have this awesome rocking motion like a Senko going down, and you better believe fish will eat it on that rocking fall. Then you just start a steady retrieve. And for many of you, we can end this video right there. That's all you need to know. Now, for the rest of you, I've got a variety of baits for a variety of conditions, different colors, and we're going to get very specific on rods. See, in most categories of baits, say we're throwing a jig, we're throwing a spinner bait, a chatter bait, you name it, a shaky head. Tim and I have our favorite rods. We have what we use. But we'll also be completely honest and say, hey, this is the one I throw and this is why. But you can get away with most 7-foot medium heavies. We'll give you a couple of budget options, maybe a mid-priced option, because you can get close and you can do pretty well. Spybaiting is that one exception where I actually have 2 rods, but one in particular. I have one spinning rod And that is the rod that I throw a spybait on. Now, that's not to say you can't get by with other rods, but I'm telling you, my hookup to land ratio is out of this world. I catch giants on this technique, and if they so much as breathe on it, they're making it to the net because I found the right setup. I use the right rod with the right reel with the right line. Everything loads up right for these treble hooks, and I get them. Now, it's an expensive combo. We'll get to that at the end. It's not for everybody, but this is one of the few times where I don't have this generalized, you can do it with this general. I'm very specific in what I throw. But let's start with the baits. So what is the deal with the spybait? Big picture, how do you fish it? We just got into the bulk of it, okay? If I was going to describe my perfect spybaiting scenario, for me, there's little, I think they're like yellow bass or white bass or something blowing up over here. I might just rig one of these up while we talk. If we're talking about, for me, what is the ideal place for me to throw a spybait? Like if I close my eyes and I think about spybait fishing, where am I? Okay, because that'll help you gain a clear picture. My number one place that I like to throw a spybait is on flats. So bass will get up and they'll roam on flats, right? And let's say 5 to 10 foot deep. Perfect scenario is like 6 to 8 feet deep, okay? Fish are up, Duo Realis Spinbait 70. Fish are up on that flat, milling about. You know, there might be grass, there might not. This could be on the Great Lakes. It could be a rock reef. This could be in the deep south on a grass edge where the next guy's throwing a chatterbait. This could be ledge fishing where they're suspended out on the edge of that break. So many different places. But my perfect scenario is up on a flat where I can just cover water. Because the beauty of a spybait is that it's simple to fish with. You just throw it out and you hit something and you just reel it back. That's all there is to it. As that thing is coming through the water, next time they come up schooling, I'm gonna fire on them. As that thing is coming through the water, on its way down, sinking, it rocks, right? But as it comes through the water, you have a prop in the front that spins, you have a prop in the back that spins. And the bait also has a little bit of a body wobble to it as that is happening. If you just look at it over the side of the boat, you're like, really? That's the action? But it is shocking if you hear a spybait underwater. If you're ever swimming, someone runs one by you, they're shockingly loud. Because when you see it in the water, you're like, I don't know if those blades are turning. I'm not sure it's doing anything. I see the little body wobble, but that's it. Those blades are turning so fast, like the prop on a plane, that you can't hardly see it. It's creating quite a ruckus, but its appearance, its presence in the water is very muted. That magical combination fools big ones. They fall for it, and they fall for it a lot. Smallmouth, some of my biggest smallmouth the last few years, my biggest limit in the last few years came on a Duo Realis spinbait. Came on the Spinbait 80. That if you could only have one, there's a reason I said that. I'm talking multiple 5 and 6 pound smallmouth, bowing those things up on light line, doing battle with them. It's incredible. Now you can throw this anywhere. You can parallel docks, you could throw on a riprap wall, you can fish dams, you can just go down the bank with the thing. You can fish them anywhere that you would fish a Kitek, anywhere that you would fish a chatterbait or a spinnerbait or an underspin. It is just a different look, a different presentation. One of my favorite things about this category, because I have 2 brands that I really throw. There's a lot of brands that make a spybait, but the 2 that I throw most are the Duo Realis by far, and we're gonna get into some very unique baits within that, and then the Spro. And both of those baits come with flawless stock hardware. When's the last time you heard me say that? You buy them, you open the package, and you fish with them. I change nothing. Nothing. That by itself is a huge money saver. This is a category where the companies that are good at it are putting them out with proper components on the baits, and you don't have to do anything. It's awesome. Now, in addition to that straight retrieve, that's what I'm doing 99% of the time. But just keep in mind that if you've got a lot of followers, sometimes when I'm in clear water, I'll see a long track follower. And what I mean is I'll make a bomber cast and I'm fishing that thing and you'll see a fish come in and get behind it, start tracking. And they'll track for huge distances. I think it's something about the way that spybait is wobbling. It just keeps them mesmerized. They'll stay with it all the way in. If I'm seeing a lot of that where I'm getting a long track follower, while I'm reeling, I'll give it a little reel bump. And it doesn't even do much to the bait. It just sort of like messes it up while it's, but the number of fish that I have commit to that thing on the little reel bump, it's a thing. So if you're getting followers, you're getting short strikes, but you haven't quite put it together, try that little bump. And it's not like I'm like rip it. It's not bump it and give it, I don't do any of that. I'm just reeling and I just add a little bump and I just keep right on going. And that's just enough that if they're right there and they're thinking about it and it bumps, they just, that's their moment. They attack. So the baits themselves are very simple. From Duo Realis, we have the spin bait family. That's the standard bait, the 80 being the main bait. And then we go down from there to the 70, that one I just tied on. That came out last year. The 70 is an amazing bait. I have worked them over on that thing. Now, you can throw it on spinning. You can also, the 70 size, throw it on bait finesse. This is my combo for that. And oh my gosh, I've had so much fun with it. This is the Zenin. It's the 7-1. It's the moderate. Yep, 7-1 medium light, moderate, fast. This setup, I can take that little 70 and throw it to the moon. That Zenin LTX BFS is an amazing, this is a high-end combo, okay? It's a high-end combo. But I fished that with straight 6 or 7 pound fluoro. And you guys already know what that fluoro is. I've talked about it so many times. That's that Daiwa Hidden FC. That line is amazing on bait finesse reels. I don't know why it holds up as well as it does. I've never looked at the science. I just know we didn't start out in love with it. It was just a line, right? We're just fishing. But I noticed that I would re-spool that reel and this one was still fine. And then I'd re-spool those again, and this one was still fine. The durability of that Hidden FC is awesome. It just holds up over time. So I end up saving a ton of money because I'm not re-spooling as often. But that combo, that Zenin combo, will launch a little 70 spin bait over the horizon. It is so much fun to fish with. And I think a lot of people don't realize that with bait finesse. When you have proper bait finesse gear, it will outcast an equal spinning rod. It will. These reels are not traditional bait casters. They are designed for finesse applications. They are designed to be free floating and to let that bait sail. It is a very different animal. So when I need a ton of distance with that spy bait, a lot of times I put it on that bait caster and I let that thing rip. So we've got the 80, we've got the little 70. Going the other way, you also have, in that same family, you have the 90, and then you have the 100. Okay, all we're doing with sizes is matching bait fish. So if I'm up north, it's all 70 and 80. If I come home, I'm on the Tennessee River, it's 80, 90, and 100. And then sometimes I switch over to the Alpha. So in addition to that standard spin bait series, Duo Realis makes some other unique baits as well. They've got the Alpha series, which are these, they're like a little shorter and stumpier and they're taller. So profile wise, similar length. This one's actually a little shorter, but look how much taller it is. Look how much overall bait that actually is in comparison. Way bigger bait than this. So if I'm on a fishery where they're eating a lot of shad and bluegills, bait fish that are taller profiles rather than like little minnows, you'll see me throw that Alpha series a lot. The other nice thing about the Alpha is you've got much larger, heavier wire hardware on that thing, you can hammer them. So here on the TVA, I can still downsize, I can still go light line, but I can also throw this on 10 and 12 pound fluoro. I can throw this on standard bait casters, not necessarily bait finesse, but just a regular bait caster or spinning, and you can let that thing sail, but you're matching the profile of the bait fish that they're chasing. And then one more, this came out last year. This is called the Heart Bee. Is it really a spy bait? I don't know, but Duo Realis makes it, and it's like, you can't even categorize it, but I throw it in the same place as a spy bait, and I wrecked shop on them with this thing last summer. Here's what you got. It looks like a popper, right? It's not. This bait sinks. The mouth is not a cup, it's open, it's hollow. Water is going in the mouth and it's coming out through the belly, and look at the belly, it's got this little prop on it. So it's forcing water through the bait, through the prop, and the prop is down there spinning. And then at the back of the bait, we have this elastomer tail, this stretchy material tail, okay? And it's a curly tail. The result is that we have a blade in the front that's churning, making a lot of sound. The bait's rocking, and you've got this elastomer tail churning in the back rather than a blade. Same concept as the traditional spin bait, but totally different look and profile. And again, last summer, I got my hands on these and I went to work with them. I caught a lot of fish in the south on a bait that I know no one else was throwing. Nobody had even looked at that thing yet. I know it just because it was different enough. And sometimes that is the difference maker. Now, one other bait from Spro. We've got this guy, the Spin John 80. Okay. Biggest difference, concept exact same. Biggest difference is that the Spin John comes with a swivel on the nose and a swivel on the tail. Comes with a little feather on that tail, although that one's pretty haggard because I've caught a bunch of fish on it already. But it's got a little feathered tail. You don't need to change hardware again. It's got great hardware. The biggest difference is that the Spin Johns have black blades on them, as opposed to most of these will have like a chrome type blade on them. Although there are some different options, but most of them are chromy. Whereas my Spin John has that subtle black blade on it. It just seems like sometimes on those really cloudy, really calm days, I get bites on the black blade when I've stopped getting bit on the silver blade. Now, that's it for baits. The only other thing I would say on baits is color, okay? And let's talk about color and fishing conditions at the same time, because most of what you see me throw are very natural type colors, very ghosty, neutral type colors. And then of course, those just true bait fish type colors as well. Blueback herring lakes, anybody? Smash them on that. Now, just like a jerk bait, when we've talked about jerk baits, you can get on a jerk bait bite and it can be okay on one color. I almost always start throwing a jerk bait with a ghost color, like a ghost minnow type color. Once I find a jerk bait bite, I will immediately start experimenting with bold color. A lot of times they won't eat them. I go to chartreuses, I go to pinks, I go to whites. They won't eat them. And I go right back to ghost and I carry on. But there are days when you're catching them on that ghosty type color and you switch to a chartreuse. You switch to a white or a sexy shad and something happens. The fish were already in the mood to eat a spy bait for whatever reason, or a jerk bait for whatever reason. You switched color on them and they lose their minds. Turns out they were mad. That day, they wanted to do some eating. And the best jerkbait bite you will ever be on will be on a bold color. But it won't work on most days. But on the magical days, there's nothing else like it. Those will be your memorable days. Spybait's the exact same. So I've always got those bold colors. And if I'm catching a fair number of spybait fish, it feels like it's a pattern, not just a one here, one there, I start checking my bold colors. If it's not happening, I go back to my neutral colors. Now, when should you throw a spybait? You can throw it when that water is slick as glass, right? It's very subtle. It'll catch them. But I find that my best situation is chop on the water. Here's what I think. When it's glass, if you've ever been a swimmer, scuba diver, you spend any time underwater, when the water is glass, look at the bottom of the lake. It's also glass. If a crawfish or a bug or anything is moving, you can see it. As a result, I think that fish are hypersensitive to movement when it's glass. So a bait with those props going and that body rock, it can be too much. Just like a swim bait with a big paddle tail can be too much. Although some days they're all over it. Stick to those ghosty colors because it breaks up that profile and they'll come get it. But you'll have more followers on the days that are slick. Once you get a chop on the surface of the water, again, if you've spent any time underwater, any ripple on the surface causes shadow lines on the bottom. And those shadow lines move with the surface. The result is that on the wavier days, the bottom of the lake, say it's flat sand, it looks like it's alive. There's little black lines moving everywhere on the bottom. There is tons and tons of motion, tons to trick your eyes when you're down there. The fish live in that environment. So on the days that you have chop on the water, all of a sudden, it's like this thing kicks into high gear and the fish cannot handle it. And they don't just eat it, they club that spybait. Dong! I mean, they eat it. One of the other things I love about a spybait, unlike the vast majority of the other baits we throw, is that there's a treble hanging at the very end. When those fish come up and take a shot, even if they nip that tail, because they're not sure, what did they just nip? The hook. The hookup ratio is excellent. So again, throwing these baits is simple. Color concept, simple. When to throw it, simple. You can do this. In the video description, I'll link everything that we're talking about today, right down to the box I store them in. I'll give you everything, my favorite colors for every single bait. Now let's talk about that rod before we wrap this up. My main rod that I throw a spybait on is made by Megabass. Okay, it's in the P5 line. This is called the Flissa. The Flissa is a 7.5 foot rod, but the action is very, very dialed in. It's very specific. You will also notice that's a Shimano X-Sense. That is a high-end reel. In fact, that is the flagship reel in Shimano's MGL line of reels. So they're finesse family of reels, which means it has a very fast startup speed, very low inertia to turn the handle. And I also almost always throw a spybait on straight fluoro. And you don't see me throw straight fluoro for a lot of techniques, but these are small hooks and I am turning to them on tough days. So I want downsized line. I want nothing to indicate to those fish that this might be fake. So I'm not throwing a leader, I'm throwing straight fluoro all the way. And that fluoro is a huge shock absorber when I hook a big one. When you hook a small one, no big deal. But you hang a 5-pound largemouth on the TVA in clear water, or you go to the, not in clear water, I wish we had clear water, in current, or you go to the Great Lakes, you hook a 5 or a 6-pound smallmouth in that clear water. Either way, you are in for the battle of your life. And the combination of those trebles, that straight fluoro, and the very specific action of a Flissa, in my opinion, it cannot be beat. That is my spybait combo, period. That's what I use. The rod is dedicated to that task. All right, guys, with that, we are going to wrap this one up. Again, I'll link everything in the video description for you, but this is an overlooked bait. The people around you are not throwing it. Even if you're up north, it was like it came in a wave and it went in a wave, and most people forgot, but the guys that didn't forget are smashing them. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.